everybody, this is the Wikstrand. So, despite this day being colder than a witch's tit, despite this day being colder than a banker's heart, I will still find the time to talk about the debut film of one John Carpenter, Dark Star. I love John Carpenter's movies. His 80s filmography is among the best you could ever find. Prince of Darkness, The Fog, Big Trouble in Little China, They Live, and of course, Escape from New York. There is a whole bunch of fantastic movies. Dark Star ain't one of them. It has been hailed as, this cult classic, this fantastically wacky sci-fi comedy. In my opinion, it's a boring, overrated and ugly looking movie. But instead of me freezing my ass off on this frozen lake, let's take a look at it, shall we? This is Dark Star. God, what an amazing title that is. On the ship Dark Star. Dark Star is deep into outer space. Its mission is not to seek out new lives and new civilizations, not to boldly go where no man has gone before. They're here to bomb the shit out of planets who are deemed dangerous for some unspecific reasons. And the problem that the crew is having is mostly that they don't have enough planets to annihilate, and that the ship itself is in absolute shambles and everything needs to be replaced, fixed, and nothing is done about this. They're also bitching about the accident that killed their former commander, which now has left them with Pinbacker as their chief. By the way, played by Dan O'Bannon, who would a couple of years later write the original draft for Alien, which thankfully enough wasn't adapted exactly to his likings, because that would have been a very, very, very underwhelming movie indeed. And we're following them towards their next target. At the same time as this is happening, the ship is, as I said, falling apart, and we're having this guy who's pursuing this alien that escaped from its holding bay, because they picked up him a while ago because a ship needs a mascot, I guess. The thing is that most of the jokes in this movie doesn't really land. The setups are okay, and there are a few occasions where I actually thought that this movie was funny. The ideas behind some of the jokes were also really funny. The problem is that the majority of the payoffs to the jokes were not very good and was very lackadaisical. For instance, the entirety of the chasing of the alien, which by the way is a beach ball with feet who are just running around doing stuff and being weird about it, takes so long, leads to almost nothing, and could have been completely cut out and it wouldn't have been missed at all. Despite the fact that this movie is a very short and very compact affair, it still feels boring. I was bored for the majority of this movie, and I was feeling like, oh Jesus, this is so horrible. The only thing in this movie that I think was really funny and really hilarious was the end, where they're having actually philosophical discussion with a bomb. They're having, existential discussions with a bomb who just wants to detonate, and they don't want him to detonate. That was actually funny, but we had to sit through a lot of horrible things to get to that. Now, not everything is bad, as I said. Some of the jokes kind of works and the setups are kind of okay, and the overall feeling of the movie isn't too bad either. But I think that the majority of these jokes and the majority of the enjoyment you could have with this movie depends on the level of pot you have smoked before watching this, because I think this is a movie that is best enjoyed stoned, high, or drunk, or all three of them at the same time. Dark Star has also a major problem with its production value. Now, you shouldn't crack down on a movie that is this old with this low budget, but I'm gonna do it anyway, because this movie makes Red Dwarf look like Interstellar in comparison. And the effects are so cheap and they're so bad looking that it actively hurts the movie. In a 1950s sci-fi movie, you could masquerade a lot of the bad effects by, having it in black and white. That would, obscure some of the horribleness of what it looked like. But in this case, it's all here. The movie's ending saves it ultimately from being a horrible movie. I rewatched this movie last week for the purpose of this review, and it's actually a little bit better than the last time I saw it, but only a little bit. If you're into, wacky 1970s sci-fi comedies, which I'm sure there is not a whole lot of, this is a movie just for you. If you want to see what John Carpenter's, first feature-length film actually looked like, you could do worse, I guess, because there aren't any other debut films he has made. But for me, this is a very overrated movie that isn't as funny as they think it is. If a Blake Edwards or a Monty Python or something like that could have gotten their grubby little fingers on this one, it actually might have worked. The movie does have some odd charm to itself, but that does not help it in the grand scheme of things, because the writing is simply not strong enough, the comedy isn't strong enough, and the acting is pretty underwhelming. I give Dark Star 28 points, mostly because of how charming it is, mostly how wacky it is, and actually how semi-decent the third act of the movie is. I just wish that they could have cut the entire thing away with a fucking beach ball with a fucking feet. So I'll see you next time for so-and-so reviewing, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.